Joining us today is Marsha Chippett to share her story of where God has brought her from and the dramatic change that God has made in her life. Thanks for coming on our program today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I guess your story really starts in your childhood. Tell us about your childhood and how that really was the beginning of the life that you would later live.
As a child, I was cared for and loved a lot at home, but outside the home, I was bullied for reasons out of my control. I was bullied by kids and some adults.
Yeah, so how old were you at that point?
About 7.
Really?
Yeah.
So, at 7 years of age, and how long did that last?
Up until my later teenage years, 17, 18.
Yeah, so what did that do to your self-esteem?
It made me think I was never good enough and that I always had to measure up to somebody else, and I strived to be perfect, and it just made all my relationships really hard.
So how did that affect the relationships in your life then?
Well, I immediately put a wall up and I secluded myself and I started to spend a lot of time alone.
And in response to that and all that loneliness, you began to make choices in your life, even as a teenager, that were pretty, I guess, destructive to your life. Explain those.
Well, it's hard enough being a teenager as it is, let alone going through what I went through. So at an early age, I was introduced to drugs, and my behavior just spun out of control because I was looking for something to take the pain away, make me feel better.
So why did you make that choice to do drugs as a teenager?
It was just always something that I was always looking for something to make me feel better, and at that time, that's what I found. That's what I thought would work at the time.
So what did you think that you were trying to hide from?
It was just, well, at the time, I guess, living that kind of lifestyle, I thought gave me confidence. It was always very, very temporary confidence, and it was just a mask. It was just a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
You know, just to make me feel better at the time.
And so things at home, how were things within your immediate family then, during that time?
I always knew that I was loved and cared for, but because of the low self-esteem issues, I was just convinced that nobody wanted to hear about my problems. So I kept everything to myself. I just never felt like discussing them with anybody.
So you found it difficult to even think about sharing that with your family?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't long after you graduated high school that you moved away from home and went to Alberta. And during that time, I mean, things began to go downhill fairly quickly for you. Explain that period of time.
Well, let's say I had a number of curveballs thrown at me, and I think they all hit me. I was on the run, just in search of a better life, wondering what the world had to offer me. I thought there was so much out there that I had to see, and it just became very toxic. And life wasn't always that great, even though along the way I made some great friends who are still my friends. Life was also very toxic.
So drug use was still part of your life during that time?
Yes.
Toxic, the relationships in your life. You got involved in a relationship. Would you explain that relationship as being toxic as well? Or describe it as being toxic?
Toxic, meaning that it was still destroying me inside. And like I said before, the hurt from the bullying, I mean, it was just adding to the wounds. It was just creating fresh wounds all the time. But it was still, everything that I experienced after the bullying was always a step up from the hurt. Well, so I thought.
Yeah. And so you spent, I think, a couple of years in Alberta.
3 or 4.
Yeah, and so you moved away and you tried to find maybe a different direction in your life, and you moved to Nova Scotia. Explain that period of time, and I guess why? Why did you move away and search?
Running again.
Yeah.
I was running a lot at the time, and now that I look back, I know that I was depressed. So I went to Nova Scotia, and my friends that I still have, I went to stay with, and that's where the partying continued. But the first best thing that ever happened to me happened in Nova Scotia, and that was when I had my daughter. And life slowly began to turn around then, but it was still a work in progress.
Yeah. You told me in our conversation earlier that probably the most difficult day of the week for you was Sundays. Why was Sunday so difficult for you?
Because I thought it was boring.
So you mean church? You mean? Or just Sundays?
No, just Sundays in general, because at the time I wasn't in church, so everything was closed back then because nothing was open on Sundays. It was the last day of the weekend, so that meant that my weekend was over. And for a lot of people it might have been family day, and if I was living away from home, I really didn't have family. So it was a very, very lonely day.
Yeah. So during Sundays, did you think back to the time in your life where church was a part of your life, but now it's no longer? Did that make that day difficult for you?
I guess so. I guess deep down it was there. I was thinking about that. I always knew what I was used to, but because I was on the run, I was looking for something better.
Yeah.
But little did I know that Sunday would turn out to be the day now that I look forward to the most, and not the day that I dread to come.
Yeah. So you were in Nova Scotia, again, searching for a better life. Didn't find it in Alberta, didn't find it in Nova Scotia, so you decided to move back home.
Yeah.
And you moved in with your parents.
Yeah.
Did things change then?
They changed somewhat. The partying still continued. That lifestyle still continued. I had my parents there to help me with my daughter. But like I said before, is when things were stirring up, I was slowly starting to learn, I guess, that I needed to make changes because I have a child now. But they still didn't change immediately. Still took a while.
And I guess I'm curious. Like during all of this time, did you ever feel that God was speaking to you and was?
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times. I remember one time when I worked in the West Edmonton Mall, so you're talking about a huge mall with lots of people, lots of employees. I was standing at the counter of my work, and a gentleman come in, and he said that the Holy Spirit had told him to come into the store and to speak to me. And I knew he was right, but still I was pushing the Lord away. I thought there was something better for me, and I could feel the warmth over me, but I was still in denial. But I knew that that was no coincidence that he came in that store. I knew deep down, and there's no such thing as coincidence, because if there was, my life would have been a whole lot better than it was.
Yeah. So throughout your life, God was speaking to you in different ways through different circumstances. But it wasn't until the age of 27 that you gave your life to Jesus. I mean, explain that process and that moment.
Well, at that time, I had recently lost my mother. So I was going through a bit of a grieving process and just wondering where I stood in life. And I was still in the party scene, but I just knew that there was better for me. I said, life doesn't have to be a struggle. We're not put on this earth to constantly struggle. Like, there has to be better. And as a child, my parents always managed to slip that Bible verse in there: train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And that was said to me all the time. And I said, this is it. I'm to the bottom. I need the Lord. And I gave my heart to the Lord.
Wow. So what was that moment like for you when you made that crucial decision?
It felt like a weight lifted, even before I did it. I knew what was coming. I was excited, but little did I know what the Lord would have in store for me. And the actual physical experience was quite numbing. It's tingling.
So you look at your life now compared to your life previously. How is your life different now?
Oh my goodness. I feel light. The worry, the panic, the fear, the anxiety, the hate, it's gone. And when I wake up and my day is not going so well, I know that the Lord has a plan for me. And I don't know how He's going to work it out, and I guess that's why it's called faith, but He always works it out. He's never failed me, and I know He's not going to fail me. I have that satisfaction is filled, that void is filled. I no longer search. I'm happy living in a small town. I'm a stay-at-home mom at the moment, and I'm loving it. And my life is simple, and I'm full of joy all the time. That excitement, and sometimes it goes up a little bit higher, and other times it's just normal joy.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
So as you look at your life and you look at the way that you see yourself now compared to how you saw yourself during the time you were bullied, how do you now see yourself?
Well, I will say I have my self-esteem back. I'm a lot more confident in myself, although everything is not perfect, but I'm feeling a lot better because I know that the Lord loves me and I don't need to be perfect, that I'm His child.
And there may be people who are watching today and they might be going through some addictions, they might be going through some problems in their life, and they're thinking, oh, you know what, there's no way out of this. There might be some of your old friends watching. What would you like to say to those who are watching, who are facing some of the things that you faced in your life growing up?
Well, the Lord loves you no matter what. His love is always there waiting. Salvation is a free gift, and it's there for you, me, it's there for everybody. So what do you have to lose? If you hit rock bottom, it's probably the time when most people call on Him, but you don't necessarily have to wait till you hit rock bottom to ask for Him, because, there just might come that time when you really need Him, and if you already got Him there, He's there to hold your hand, and He'll carry you through. He really will carry you through.
I know that there's one Bible verse in particular that has been a source of strength to you and it means a lot to you. Which one is that?
It's Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. The plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. And who wouldn't want that?
That's right.
Who wouldn't want that? Like, just come to Christ and give Him your problems. And He doesn't fail.
That's right. Thank you so much, Marsha, for coming on our program today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if you've enjoyed that interview or any part of the show, then we would love to hear from you.